there, and welcome to your UCSF Fresno Sub-Internship Month. My name is Dina Benjamin, and I'm your Clerkship Director for this month. This promises to be a very exciting and fun-filled month of experience. There's lots of people around to help you, so I'm around. Make sure to send me emails or find me in the department. Tony Conley is around. Make sure to ask her for help as well, and as well as any of the attendings or residents. During this month, you're going to have about 16 to 18 shifts, and they're going to be divided among the various zones of our department, which vary in acuity. Some of these shifts include an ultrasound shift, which you will be sharing with a resident. Another one is the EMS ride-along, where you'll be going on an ambulance, as well as the reperfusion nurse / tech shift, which I will explain later when we talk about scheduling. When you start at the beginning of your shift, make sure to introduce yourself to the resident and attending in every zone. Ask them how you want them to run the shift, and once they say they're ready for you to pick up the patient, make sure to pick up one at a time, present your patient, write your note, and move on unless they tell you otherwise. All right, you ready to walk through the department? Let's go. So first of all, right here, we have our radio room where we get lots of calls from EMS. You can come in here during your shift and just listen in. Anytime you leave your zone to go anywhere, make sure to talk to your resident or attending so they know where you are, so they don't think you just disappeared. All right. Here's our EMS triage, where patients coming in through ambulances get triaged by our nurses, and from there the decisions made as to which zone they're going to go to based on the acuity of their presentation. Alright, so our department is very much kind of like a mass casualty event. So the various zones are very similar to going through a mass casualty event. So our first zone is the red zone, which is closest to our EMS triage, where our highest acuity patients end up in here. As you can see, we have hallway vents as well as resuscitation rooms, and that is also based on patient acuity. As you can look over here, right in front of us right here is where our clerk sits, and they're very helpful to call consults for you or if you have any questions. Usually the computer next to the clerk over there is where the reperfusion nurse sits, and we'll talk more about... Hello, Dr. Kurtz. We'll talk more about how you're going to be helping the reperfusion nurse. You can actually see our clerk sitting back there, who's looking through all of the telemetry on our patients, and they can actually be helpful for you if you want to know if there's any events. The cubbies in the corner over there on the left is where you can find any of the EMS triage sheets or any other paper information that your patient will have. And Dr. Struck. I know, they follow me everywhere. Alright, and where Dr. Struck is entered is actually one of our doc boxes. So if you're looking for the red zone attending or the resident, you can find them in here.
Is this for our respective med students?
Correct.
Awesome.
Oh, and Dr. Von Reinhardt.
Welcome to Fresno.
Well, a mouthful of food.
Alright, so all of this is Fresno.
Past the hallway.
So for red zone, you will not be assigned a specific shift in red zone. You will be assigned to a high acuity zone, which I will explain later. You will understand why, because we have such high acuity patients, and usually the resident attending respond immediately when a patient is placed in red zone, so you're more than welcome to tag along and see what's going on, but you will not be primarily responsible for the care of these severely ill patients. All right, let's keep going. All right, in between red zone and our next zone are two very important areas. The first one is trauma zone, which is all the way at the end over there, and we will walk through it. But the other very important place over here is the physician workroom, or what we refer to as room 2. You will come over here at the beginning of your med student shift to meet your med student shift attending, which is also another kind of shift we'll talk about later, as well as morning report at 7:30 every morning will be in here. All right, let's keep going.
did. I got the NOS today.
Alright, so this is our trauma zone. Once again, you are not going to be responsible for a shift in trauma zone, but in the high acuity, you're more than welcome to come in here and see what's going on. We have 3 different trauma bays that take up to 8 patients, and we have some hallway beds in here as well. Please feel free to come in here and see what's going on. It's usually very exciting, and there's lots of procedures. When there is a trauma activation, which means the trauma team is coming down, please try to stay out of the way, but be available because they may need your help in procedures like central lines or assistant thoracotomies or lateral canthotomies, lots of laceration repairs, etc. All right, let's keep going. So you ask, well, so far we've been through red zone and trauma zone. And you keep saying there's this high acuity shift that you'll be assigned. Where is this shift? Well, that's yellow zone. And that's where we're headed right now. You can always cheat to see which zone you're in based on the tabs on top of the patient rooms because they will tell you what color zone you are currently in. So yellow zone is the next high acuity zone. It is not as high acuity as red zone where the patient needs immediate intervention. It's the sick but less sick compared to red zone, and you'll see that. So as we walk through yellow zone, you can see that our doc box is right here. Once again, this is where you'll find your resident and your attending, Dr. Manus, our future chief resident repair. Did you like my blank stare though? Our other key people in here, your clerk sits in the corner right there. Your team lead for yellow zones, your charge nurse will sit in the other corner. And all of the cubbies for the EMS run sheets are right here as well. Make sure to check your patient's cubby to make sure you're not missing any important information. All right, let's keep going. So this is yellow zone.
Be cool, right?
Alright, as we move down from yellow zone, we're going to get to green zone. And once again, you can see the tabs on the wall for the hallway beds. Every zone has hallway beds and room beds. And it may be difficult to locate them, but that's okay. Ask anybody and they'll tell you where to put them. Alright. So green zone is very much bread and butter of emergency medicine. So you will see the undifferentiated low-risk chest pain, vaginal bleeder, undifferentiated abdominal pain patient, etc. A lot of times people requiring some cardiac monitoring will also end up in here. And psychiatric patients as well. Alright, right here there are 2 clerks and they sit right there. They're very helpful for you also to call consults, etc. Here is our doc box right here where you'll also find your resident and attending for the green zone. And Dr. Lassard, say hello.
I just screwed that up.
Alright, so green zone is one of our largest zones in the department. It has over 40 spots for patients, so there will be lots of patients for you to see when you're assigned to green zone. Like I said, make sure to check with your attending or your senior resident before you pick up the next patient. There's only 1 attending in this whole zone, and so it can be difficult for them to be in charge of the medical student and intern, a 2nd year, a 3rd year, or a 4th year. As well as some mid-level residents. So just make sure to check in with them so they make sure they have time to listen to your presentation. Right here is where we have our EMS cubbies as well, so make sure to check for your patient's information in here. There are lots of computers in the department. If there's any open computer, you're more than welcome to use it, but please do not log out somebody who's already logged in, especially if it's one of our residents. That disrupts their workflow. So you're more than welcome to use any open computer, just don't log out somebody who's already logged in. Alright, so this is green zone. Also in this zone is where we put a lot of our eye complaint patients, peritonsillar abscess patients, and they usually go in our ENT room. And this is the room where you also have slit lamps. So we're just going to take a peek in here. So you have 2 slit lamps in this room. One's right here and one's over there. And if you're unfamiliar with using them, please make sure to tell your senior resident or attending, and they'll be more than happy to help you. All right, so moving right along. Our last zone in the department, and probably one of the most complicated zones, is our provider at triage, also known as Blue Zone, also known as PACT. It is considered our urgent care or our fast track zone. It only has 5 rooms right here, as you can see. Usually patients come in here with the idea that they're going to require a quick exam or report the results to them, and they're potentially getting discharged, although that is not perfectly the case because sometimes patients get mistriaged, as you know. What happens is patients come in through the waiting room or through EMS triage, and if their complaint is deemed suitable for this area, then they're assigned to this area. They wait in a large waiting room for their results, imaging, etc. to come back. Once all of those are back, then they come back into these rooms to get seen and potentially discharged. We have had admitted patients in this room. We have had patients with myocardial infarctions in this room. So just because the patient is assigned to this room, good morning, do not assume that they are low-risk patients. Take every patient seriously regardless of the zone that they are in. When you get assigned to this zone, there's 2 attendings, and the way it works is that an attending ends up in the lobby where they triage every patient that comes in the room, and another attending sits back here. You'll present your patient to whoever the attending is that is back here, and that is the attending you will keep with the patient. So once the attending swap back and forth from the lobby to back here, they don't swap their patients. So just make sure to check in with the attending that you present the patient to. Where is this said attending? The attending sits in the back box back here. And that's actually through these doors right here. We'll also be working with our mid-levels, our physician assistants, and our nurse practitioners. They're very experienced. If you have questions, feel free to ask them, and they love to teach as well. Anytime anybody is working in this zone, it can be quite confusing because attendings are going back and forth every 2 hours. When you start your first shift here, it is okay to ask any of the mid-levels or the attendings, or even some of the residents who sometimes will be working in this zone, how it works, because it can be very confusing. Through the door right here is actually where you end up in that large waiting room that I'm talking about. Through this door where patients are just waiting for their results once they come in from the lobby, and that's called Area 2. And through that double door right there is actually our actual lobby where patients come in through the front doors. And there's an attending that sits on the other side of that, along with a resident or a mid-level, and they triage every single patient. All right, that's pretty much our department in a nutshell. If you have any questions, like I said, make sure to ask your senior resident or your attending, or find me in the department. Ms. Tony Conway is a great resource. Get pumped, it's gonna be a fun month. All right, see you guys around.
So up next, we're going to talk about the actual daily grid of the schedule. So what you're looking at is 1 day's worth of shifts in our emergency department. The daily grid, the first place to look is on the very top where you see the number. So it says the number 6, which means 6 a.m. And if you follow all the way to the bottom, it goes all the way until 8 a.m. the next morning. The way to read the schedule is the top half of the sheet is looking at the higher acuity zones. So as you can see, there's red zone shifts, the dark blue is the trauma zone shifts, and yellow zone shifts. And in the higher acuity zones, there is a faculty assigned, some residents assigned, and also all of you will be assigned there as well. The way to find which zone you're in is to look for your name with parentheses medical student next to it. In the high acuity zones, you'll only be assigned to yellow, but once again, you're more than welcome to float up to red or trauma and see what's going on, and definitely ask questions about patient management and get involved. In the second half of the daily grid, or the lower half, you can actually see the lower acuity zones or aqua zones, which are green zone and blue zone. Most of the shifts for faculty in the higher and lower acuity zones run from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So they leave about an hour before you do. So at the end of your shift, make sure to remind your faculty member to fill out an online evaluation for you. Don't wait till the end of your shift because they're usually gone. The only exception to that schedule is in the blue zone, or provider at triage, or PAT, is where the faculty member starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 4 p.m. and the next faculty member starts at 4 p.m. and ends at midnight. So to look for whether you're assigned to high acuity or low acuity, once again, just look for your name with parentheses MS next to it, or medical student, and that's how you'll know where you are. And the color under your name will indicate which zone you're in, so whether it's yellow, green, or blue. The other kinds of shifts that you will all be assigned is the ultrasound shift. So it'll say your name with parentheses ultrasound shift next to it. So make sure to let the faculty and the residents know in the various zones that you are there and you're willing to scan for them. The other kind of shift you'll be assigned is the medical student shift, and that shift is usually located on the lower half of the green zone shifts, where you will see an attending's name, and underneath will be 4 medical student names, and that means that you've been assigned to the medical student shift, and that usually runs from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. For that shift, you will all meet in room 2. You'll meet your attending there, and from there you'll decide where you'll end up picking up patients. For that shift, you will only report to that attending, because that attending's sole responsibility is to take your presentations and is not responsible for any other residents or taking any other presentations. So make sure to find your attending that day. Once again, they'll be in room 2. The last kind of shift that you will be assigned will be the reperfusion/tech shift. So you will find the reperfusion nurse in the red zone, and you will report to them, as well as ask them to help you find one of the techs, introduce yourself to the tech, and tell them that you're interested in helping them set up for procedures or put on splints, or if they have any interesting experience that you could be a part of. You're more than welcome to spend the entire reperfusion shift with the reperfusion nurse, but I encourage you to ask the tech to also show you some of the tricks that they have. This shift tends to run from 3 p.m. to midnight, so please use it wisely. So once again, the schedule runs from 6 a.m. To 8 a.m. the following day. The first third of the schedule is looking at the morning shifts, the middle third of the schedule is looking at the midday shifts, and the last part of the schedule is looking at the overnight shifts. Look for your name, look for the color under your name. If you're in the upper part of the schedule, it means you're in the high acuity, which is yellow zone. If you're in the lower part of the schedule, with either a green line or a blue line, then report to the respective zones.
This is your Vocera. This is basically how you're going to communicate with the nurses or locate residents or doctors or kind of get any information. So when you come to work, the first thing you're going to do is find a battery, and they're kind of scattered in the department, looking green zone, the doc box, yellow, trauma. At the nurses' stations, they should have these batteries. Then what you do is, the first thing you do is log in, and all you have to do is press the big button on the back. This is the button you're going to press to log in, to log out, to talk. And this button on the top is to kind of say no to things. So this is the yes button, all your actions, and this is the decline button. And all you have to do is press the button.
Good morning. Please say or spell your first and last
And say your name. Timothy Ng.
I didn't understand. Please say or spell your first and last name.
And it doesn't always work, so let me try again. Timothy Ng.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Please
Okay,
say
if that doesn't work, spell your
first
name.
and last name.
Timothyng.
I'm logging you in as
Dr. Timothy.
And then once you're logged in, now you can make calls and it'll ask you all your commands. Just talk to your residents about what kind of things you can do with it.
21-year-old male coming in with diffuse redness.
Diffuse redness.
Total body rojo. Kind of like Ryan.
It's so bad.
He actually was the color of Ryan.
Like Ryan after he's been in the sun for 5 minutes.
So have you not seen him?
Have you not
Pass it around.
No, I got my own picture.
You said gray?
No, he's total body Ryan. He's in yellow.
The yellow, okay.
Sorry, yellow. He's in a room like yellow 3 or something.
Everything is red except the zone.
Yeah.
So what do you see when you walk
A
in?
very red gentleman. He looks like Ryan. I kid you not. His face is bright red.
Where is he coming from?
Well, he couldn't remember if he had ever had grape juice before. I even went and asked him
wine?
about various flavors of wine, Prosecco, Grappa,
Actual grapes.
actual grapes.
Pruno.
He's like, no, this is a new brand
Pruno.
of grape juice. New brand of grape juice. He's never had this particular brand of grape juice. That's the
You asked a 21-year-old in RED about different brands, different like types of wine.
No, I didn't. I asked him, how is this one different? He said it was a new brand. He said it was a new brand. I started saying, we should do something.
Right.
Oh, I should also say, his conjunctiva are like bright red. They match his skin, so he kind of looks like Total Red Man.
Yeah, so
It's actually terrifying.
I mean, what do you guys think about this guy? Are you worried about him?
So,
Why?
Does this happen so quickly that he went from
right.
normal
It's not
to
like,
red to
oh, it's
itching?
been going on for 2 days. Right. It's like 30 minutes.
so this happened quick, and
What are you thinking that he has?
It sounds like some going on anaphylactic kind of reaction.
Why would he?
Epinephrine?
Yeah!
what's the dose of epinephrine?
I don't know.
I am 1 in 1.
Perfect.
How much? How many milligrams?
0.1.
Close-ish.
1.0.
Go in between yourselves.
0.5.
Getting warmer.
0.3 is yours.
Okay.
So we're going to
But
do
you can. That's not like some people will give 0.5.
5.
Yeah, or 0.3 and repeat the dose.
Yeah.
And remember, it's the same mLs and milligrams. Okay, so it's easier if you tell the nurse give 0.3 ml, right? Because they're going to pull it up to 0.3 ml. If you tell them give 0.3 milligrams, they might think that they have to do some sort of a conversion or something. So I think it's easier if you just say 0.3 ml.
As long as we're using this concentration.
Yeah, it changes it.
Right.
Make sure it's IM because I've had a nurse draw it up and a vacuum IV.
So what if you want to give it IV? What's the dose?
1 to 1,000?
That's the IM version
Oh,
is
okay.
1 to 1,000.
Oh, yeah.
So that always confused me the way I remember it. So 1 to 10,000, you have a lot more tiny red blood cells than you do muscles. So you have a bigger number that goes into the blood and a smaller number goes into the muscles.
Is it 0.1 for IV? It's the same dose, it's just a different concentration. So 1 to 10,000. Because what are you worried about doing if you give somebody that much IV epi? We do it all the time, right?
When people are dead.
Yeah, when they're dead. it's an extraordinary amount of adrenaline, epinephrine to give to somebody whose heart's going to make them super tacky. It's going to make their blood pressure skyrocket. Like if I give that to you right now.
Clams aren't a shellfish, they're a mollusk. I'm allergic to clams.
Oh, and if the muscle to shell ratio is
Yeah.
muscle or clam is high, then that means it's a good quality muscle or clam. Just saying that. And at Annex Kitchen and at Cracked Pepper, they give you 17.
Where do you shop for seafood?
And 17 is good?
It's just how many they give. No, they give in there like the bowl. They give
Just walked in on Dr. Von Reinhardt.
And that made it onto the recording, by the way.
Never interrupt
pregnant woman who was peeing.
They now have severe neck trauma.
The patient is at GCS of 8. There is a significant scalp hematoma.